oh, what's the cascade thing? Is that it? That's what he was doing behind me last time, and I didn't even know. And he was like,
Real good if this wasn't hot.
when I was real stressed out. Right, we're back in the workshop today. This is after D1. I thought we would make a little video to kind of break up the D1 content, kind of show that we can do other things, even though that there's another drift car behind me that's miraculously appeared out of the wild. Photo. No.
Hi.
Okay. So we're just going to run through what we're doing in the workshop. We are in a bit of a shambles. I do apologise. We're kind of a bit of crap everywhere. We've been all systems go trying to catch up on the work, and yeah, I'll show you what's around the workshop today. Maybe some interesting things for you guys, and yeah, we'll go through it today. So Jimmy Oakes stayed in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Apparently Troy looks like Jimmy Oakes. I'm going to tag him in this video again anyway. But yeah, so we have our own Jimmy Oakes now.
Definitely like the wish version. Definitely.
Jimmy Strokes.
Jimmy Strokes.
But anyway, shout out to Jimmy. He's a nice guy, nice to meet him. But yeah, I thought I was going to be able to show you a little bit more, but Troy has already got the gearbox in this morning, so that's great. What we ended up doing was, the owner of this car, Kevin, has been slowly working through a few problems. He bought the car as it pretty much was. This originally was a FD1 boring R18, I think it was even automatic.
Sparkle grey.
It was sparkle grey automatic, the Nanospec Civic, and he's kind of turned it into this, well, it got turned into this kind of animal Type R replica race car thing. Everything on it's fiberglass, got big Alcon brakes, coilovers, you know, Swift springs, upgraded sway bars, arms, you name it, it's got it. So what the issue was is Kevin was finding it was jumping in and out of gear. I didn't get any footage of us doing it because Pierce wasn't here yesterday because he only works part-time.
Hey.
Is this some kind of joke? You guys put me on? I was gone 3 hours.
So what we found was, which was the worst one? Let me just, as you can see, we don't actually make any prep before we do any filming. I don't know whether you can see in here, but these synchro sleeves are just completely cooked. And the detent springs, which are, or the synchro springs, sorry, they're all bent, mangled. But the cool thing about it is, the reason why, see that one there, that's a good one. That one's had all the smashing on the bottom. The cool thing that we found with this gearbox is someone has actually pulled it down before in the past, and in these K-series boxes there's a couple of shims. They didn't put them in. So the main shaft is, every time it puts its foot on the clutch, which is fantastic. So the whole shaft's moving up and down. So it's been popping out of gear, which is not ideal on the racetrack when you're at 9 grand and then you're like back off the gas and it's now gone into neutral. It makes things a bit spicy. But, so other than that, we've made our late model Civics, so FD, FN, or even DC5 if we've got the right air intake. These are our sort of motorsport regulation and catch can systems for these. Quite cool, compact, easy to service from the bottom. We've added a fuel filler into it because they had an incident where they forgot to put the fuel cap back on in the boot at a race day and it leaked fuel in the car, so we sorted that out for them and done some wiring as well, put a proper kill switch and things in for it, even labelled them. If anyone knows where to get a cool labeler, can someone tell me? Because I hate these ones, they just look crap. But I need one of those. But yeah, we added in, come around the back of the car. Whole back of the car comes off. We made up a filler for him as well. Because it had to take the boot off to fill it up. It was a bit of a pain in the ass. Would have liked to have put it in the factory position, but unfortunately, you know, it's not ideal to drill through holes in a chassis. So we didn't do that. We put in a cool Sparko filler and we made up a whole neck and everything for it. So it sort of like fills up like a factory car. But yeah, we've also retuned the car for him. I believe it's like 160 kilowatt, I believe, something like that. Gearbox has got a M factory diff. It's now got all new M factory sync, carbon synchros, all that type of stuff in it. And we've converted it back from E85 to pump gas. So Dan managed to do some page up and page down and all the other whizzy bits and pieces, and yeah, it makes the same power on pump gas. They didn't really get any benefit out of it, so it made more sense to make it a bit more cost effective to do track days. But yeah, I just thought that might be something polar opposite to a D1 car that you might want to have a look at. It's very, very cool, some of the track day cars that people have these days, and we're happy to be involved with this one. It's quite cool. Kevin's a cool customer to have, and yeah, hopefully we get some footage of this at a track day sometime soon for you. Give me 2 seconds. I've just dropped something. And you're going to be working on this one because this is your thing.
It's alright, I don't mind working on
You're
this.
a Sylvia guy, mate. Ben Sylvia. I met Ben the other day.
Not Ben Wiggins.
Not Ben Wiggins. What's his last name? Ben Vanderlyn. I only met him the other day. So he had some issues at round 1, blew a turbo or something like that, and then got another. Blew a turbo and dropped a valve, and then it broke the turbo. So somebody, I don't know who did it, changed the head over, put a new turbo on, and then this head has the VE head, which is very, very rare. Well, I haven't seen it happen before. All the little pins through the rockers have all fallen out, and so unfortunately it's now a 4-man push, and Ben and Digger Dan decided they would like to bring it here for us to have a look at. We've had an inspection, so we've got a new head on the way for them, and we're going to completely retune the car. I've got a whole bunch of Haltech sensors and stuff to put in it, so if you guys know us, we put sensors on everything. We like as much information as we can get when we're tuning cars, so we're going to sort this out for him, hopefully get him to Bay Park, let him get some seat time in the car, because unfortunately Ben's only had nothing but mechanical problems with it, so we're going to get it sorted for him. Apparently it used to make a 400 kilowatt or something like that, 350, 400 kilowatt. Apparently it was a real weapon. So we're going to sort that out for him, and hopefully we can get him back to Bay Park. Yes, it is another drift car, and we're doing another Sylvia, but you know, we enjoy doing this type of work. We've got to get it all sorted out for him and get him racing. That's kind of the main deal. Then above that, we have a Barra, a spicy Barra. Normal, typical, like 30,000 horsepower Barra. Big turbo, intercooler, plasma man stuff everywhere. But we serviced this car for this customer. We didn't build it, and we noted down on the last service that it was leaking oil. And simple solution for that is obviously you pull the transmission out, look like a rear main seal leak. Pull the transmission out, and then found that the flywheel bolts, flex plate. Got to make all politically correct terminology here. The flex plate bolts were welded to the flex plate, so that was the first cool thing that we found. And the second cool thing that we found was, can't kind of get under the car at the moment, but if anyone's worked on a Barra, at the back of the engine above the rear main seal, the sump is in a U shape, and there's a little U rubber gasket that sits inside the sump. So as it clamps up, it seals off the bottom part. Somebody decided that they didn't need that seal and filled it up with silicon, so it's hooming oil out the back of the sump. So while it's here, we're going to sort it out for the customer properly. We got some ARP fasteners for the flex plate and the torque converter. We've got a new Smexy SFI Aeroflow flex plate, and one of the mechanics gets the fun job of pulling the sump off because it ain't this guy. Bugger! So the engine was disassembled, the head was changed over somewhere else, and they brought it here just to get some sensors installed and get it tuned. We started it and we weren't happy with how it was running. It kind of sounded like a bit of an EJ20, which was a bit weird. So we decided to pull pin and actually have a look inside the engine, because as we were told it was all brand new, but we just weren't happy with how the engine sounded. Now, I haven't seen this before. I bet there's someone else is going to be like, they all do that, or can't believe you haven't seen that before, or whatever, but I haven't seen it before. On a VE head, the pins for the VTEC, because that's right, and Nissan tried to make VTEC as well. All these pins, which hold these rockers in, have like fallen out. There's no retaining circlips or anything on there. They've all kind of like fallen out and jammed. Either the valves, some of the valves are jammed open, and some of them aren't opening anymore because there's no actual follower attached to anything. So unfortunately, being that it's a VE head in a rear-wheel drive application, because these are supposed to go on like CVT Primeras, there's a service hole here, which is a frost plug, which you can slide the whole rocker rail out of, but it kind of won't come out because the head's longer than that, which is unfortunate. And we also don't know if there's any other damage done to the head. And then there's another service hole at the back, so in the normal Primera, when it's the other way around, you can slide it out the back and service all the rockers that way. We can't do that because there's a firewall in the way, because it's run the wrong way for what it was designed for. So we've just made the call so we can inspect and make sure there's no other damage, so Ben can go out hooning. We're going to pull the head off, we're going to service, not this head, we've got another head on the way, but we're going to service the new head gasket, and some check deck surfaces, and just do all the basic things so we know that this doesn't happen again. We want to try and get them out as quick as we can, but we also don't kind of want to sacrifice on any quality, none of that like kind of bang it together kind of mentality. So that's what we're up to. Hopefully the head should be here sort of next week, so we can get that sort of together. I think next week is it, and then the car will come back, because the car's going to go into storage until the parts turn up, because it kind of doesn't look like it today, but we are absolutely getting smashed. We've got so much work to do, so there's no point in starting on this and pulling everything down yet until we've got all the parts, because I don't know if we're going to be able to get everything in an orderly fashion. So yeah, we're gonna tear this down, send the car back away, and then when the new parts arrive, we'll get the car back in. So kind of looking forward to getting them a result, and hopefully get them out to Bay Park.
Welcome back to YouTube. JP has asked me to talk a little bit about a job that I undertook at the start of this year that's been going on for probably a total of about 3 weeks worth of work, but over the last couple of months I've installed a 6-point roll cage into a customer Marcus's race car. He's decided to build an M4, so this is a 2017 M4 for endurance series racing, which is pretty cool, and asked me if I would like to build a roll cage for him, and I was stoked at the opportunity. So this is a 6-point TIG welded, not too basic but not too aggressive roll cage setup, exactly to his requirements, which also include the use of factory door cards, because he is going to run most of the interior back in this car, which means that the door card doesn't foul on the side intrusion bars, which was pretty cool. Moving forward from that, it's got a couple of cool features like the extra bar up the front, just for added strength in this A-pillar section just here, this front lateral. It's also got the steering wheel mounted to the dashboard bar, and the dashboard bar has been fitted in to work around the air conditioning system. So he's going to have some fun putting the car back together and making all of the ducting work around that bar, because it goes right over top of those vents, which is cool. Another thing he wanted me to look at fitting into the car for was a set of air jacks. I've never actually fitted air jacks to a car before, so this was a new one for me. So there was a lot of research behind this, a lot of talking to people that I know that have done it before, and I settled on going for a set of air jacks from next door, actually from Racer Products. Their corner sort of weight is 500 kgs, which is what we were kind of after. This car factory is 1600 kg, and because a lot of the interior is going back in, it's not going to be too far if it's factory weight, although Marcus has been telling me he's going to change all the boot and the bonnet and the doors and stuff to carbon fiber, so it'll lose some weight there, but I still wanted to allow for the weight of the car, the weight of the cage in the car now. So yeah, I went with a air jack from next door and then went about building them into the chassis. So as you can see, it looks pretty industrial, but it also takes the full weight of the car. On each corner, I've checked with a jack. You can jack up these things and the whole chassis lifts up, so it's a pretty solid, rigid chassis now. This was a little bit difficult to do actually, because air jacks, for anyone that's worked with them before, generally seem to be a really weird OD. The ones I found in particular were 62mm OD, and that rules out using 2.5-inch tube, because 2.5-inch tube is 63 ID. So what I ended up doing was finding some tube that was a 70mm OD, so 67mm ID, and having my friend machine up these spacer rings, which are a 62.5 ID and then a 70 OD, which means that when the air jack is fitted inside of the tube, there's little to no movement, and then once those locking collars are on, there's no rocking or side to side or front and back movement of the air jack, which means it's nice and tight in there. So when it's up in the air, it's going to be as solid as it can be, pretty much, which I'm looking forward to seeing once they're in the car and all plumbed up and it does its first off the ground. The fronts are actually tied to the roll cage because I've made such a strong structure. So the side of the car, which is like the chassis point, and the floor of the car are plated with 3mm plate, and that actually ties into the plating or the footer plate for the box on the roll cage. And then I've made a bunch of brace plates as well. So there's one behind, there's one forward, and one side that both tie into the side of the car, the floor of the car, and the footer box for the roll cage. So it's like as strong as it needs to be. It's probably stronger than it needs to be, but because I'd never done this before and I was working off of basically photos of M4 race cars over in the UK, I didn't want to take any chances by doing the bare minimum, so I've gone a little bit overboard, but with the intention of never having an issue with the system whatsoever. They're all completely level too, even after I welded them, so I'm pretty happy with that result. Yeah, it's a pretty cool car. It's going to get some other stuff as well, like some tuning, and I'll do some stainless downpipes for it without cats. But this car will be as street trim as possible because Marcus is a really good driver, and he likes to show that by driving cars that people kind of scratch their heads at and look at and go, well, why does it not have a full guffin interior, and why does it still have all the air conditioning in it and that sort of thing. So yeah, looking forward to seeing it finished. It's going to be painted white apparently, the interior. With a little bit of glitter, I reckon, so it should look pretty good.
Rebuilt the gearbox. It was popping in and out of gear prior to us doing the gearbox, so what I'm doing is I'm just validating everything's okay. So I'm going to do a couple of power runs, make sure it's holding, and then I'm just going to set a road speed and start jerking the car effectively to make sure that everything's all happy. It's just kind of break in the gearbox a little bit. I'm just here for emotional support. Work now. Him running the dyno, I think, is a bit daunting for him, so just here for constructive criticism. Should work now. Should work now. was tuned, what, probably about 6 to 8 months ago. There's various track days and whatnot. The 175, that's where we were when we tuned it. We're pretty much consistent, right on top of each other from when it was tuned 8 months ago to now. Nothing's changed, making exactly the same power. Good. Can't hear me that well, but yeah, so we've just done a couple of power runs, making sure it's the gearbox feels nice and smooth. We've done a couple of like high load, low speed, just jerking the accelerator and doing all the bits and pieces to try and seat all the gearbox, make sure it's all happy. Now we'll take it off the dyno, just make sure we got no links, do another spanner check, and this car can go back to the customer. I'm really happy with how that gearbox feels now. It was pretty average before, so another one in the back.